in, come on in. It's gonna be a good one. Yes. It's Friday. Hey, Margaret Selby artist. Yes, happy blessed Friday. Yes, thank you. My Revelations fan. Yes. Let me throw up some photos while more people come into the room of my guest today. Yes! Come on, Steven Melendez. Come on now. Beautiful. Yes. How you guys feeling? Welcome. Let me see what else I have. I'm so excited. Gorgeous. Welcome, guys. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Happy Friday. Feliz Viernes. Yes. Yes. Oh, thank you for that. Yes. Feliz Viernes. I love that. Wonderful. Thank you, guys. Wow. Okay, this is my guest today. Hi, Kate. How are you guys? Thank you for being here. I'm just a little warm in here because I have to close everything to keep all the noise out. So got my little fan, my makeshift Beyonce fan, but no. Hope you guys are well. Happy Friday. I hope you had an encouraging, inspiring, empowering week. I hope you're doing well. This is my guest today, Steven Melendez, and I'm super excited to talk to him today. We've never met. So it'll be a first time us meeting like this at all. And also, he's never done IG Live apparently. So that's going to be great. And anyway, I just wanted to, before we get started, just, of course, as a lot of you know, I work with Summer Stage and Central Park in all 5 boroughs. And tomorrow is our big opening night with the one and only Herbie Hancock. So super excited to, get the season started and get it off the ground. And there's going to be a lot going on with the festival and just so many shows. And of course, all the dance performances. Look at these beautiful photos of my guests. And so, yes, I just want to make sure that people know that I am here for dance. I stand for dance. Dance has given me so much in my life and my career. And so I want to give it back as much as I can. And doing these interviews and everything else is a way for me to give back to my community, to this art form that has given me so much. So, sometimes I get a little frustrated when I feel like dance is treated like a stepchild, or dance artists are treated like stepchildren or an afterthought. And, we just can't have that. So that's my little spiel for the moment. I'm going to put up one more photo because I just adore this photo of Steven as a youngster in the LIFT program, of course, which he is going to be premiering in this weekend with Tribeca. Okay, he is a Tribeca film star, kids. And his film LIFT is premiering this weekend on Sunday at Tribeca Film Festival. So without further ado, because I know he is waiting in the chat, I'm so happy he's here. Steven Melendez was born in New York City in 1986 and began his ballet training as part of the LIFT scholarship program at Ballet School New York at the age of 7. Later, he studied at the School of American Ballet and attended summer programs with the San Francisco Ballet Academy, Houston Ballet Academy, and Kaatsbaan International School. In 2001, Melendez joined New York Theatre Ballet, NYTB, as an apprentice, and in 2006 was promoted to principal. While there, he performed leading roles in choreography by Fredrick Ashton, George Balanchine, John Butler, Agnes DeMille, Mahler, Antony Tudor, and many others. In 2004, while dancing with New York Theatre Ballet, he graduated from the American Ballet Theatre Studio Company Associate Program. The program culminated in a performance of Oblivion by Jessica Lang and Continuo by Antony Tudor. In 2006, he was invited to Buenos Aires as a guest soloist to perform with Ballet Concierto, directed by Iñaki Urlezaga. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Forgive me if I'm not. His repertory there included Carmen, Don Quixote, Symphonic Variations, and Borodin. While performing with Ballet Concierto, Melendez traveled extensively, performing in international ballet galas and festivals in Argentina, New Zealand, Thailand, Venezuela, Ecuador, Estonia, Spain, and Italy. In 2007, he joined the Van Muin Theatre Ballet Company in Tartu, Estonia, as a principal dancer. I have to ask him how to pronounce it when he comes on. And he had performing principal roles in On Again, The Nutcracker, Giselle, Peter Pan, and many, many roles. He also has received a diploma from the 5th Rudolf Nureyev International Ballet Competition in Budapest, Hungary. His kid is worldwide. And he has received special recognition from head jurist Maya Pliskaya, yes, for his second round performance of On Again. Afterwards, he was invited to perform in the gala entitled Celebrating the Classical Male Dancer, and later represented Estonia at the 13th International Baltic Ballet Festival in Riga, Latvia. He returned to New York City in March 2010 for New York Theatre Ballet's Signature 10 series as a principal guest artist, performing in Jose Lemon's Mazurkas, and rejoined the company full-time the following season, dancing and originating roles in works by Sir Richard Austin, Jose Lemon, Pam Tamowitz, and Nicolo Fonte. He is a Van Leer Fellowship recipient and a 2012 Clive Barnes Foundation Award nominee, and is a frequent guest artist at Teatro Nacional de Costa Rica and Ballet Palm Beach. He co-choreographed his first large-scale work, Song Before Spring, for New York Theatre Ballet, which was named a Dance Europe Critics' Choice Best Premiere of 2016. He has been a member of the Alumni Advisory Committee on Diversity and Inclusion for School of American Ballet, the official school of New York City Ballet. From 2019, he has been Hilland Artistic Director for National Dance Institute, New Mexico, where he created Vastness, a socially distanced dance film for a global pandemic, which aired on New Mexico PBS. I love it. He is also the subject of the upcoming feature film, which we'll talk about, Lift, directed by Academy Award nominated filmmaker David Petersen, with executive producers Sam Pollard and Janat Gargi, but is also Misty Copeland is principal advisor for the film. Misty Copeland, who we love and adore. So without further ado, let me go and find Mr. Melendez and bring him in. I'm super excited to meet him and hear his entire story. So let's go see. So I have Kelly in the chat, but I don't think it's Kelly that I need to talk to. So let me see if I can just bring in Steven. Okay. 1 second, guys. This is live. How we do it. So let's see. There we go. I'm going to invite. Yes. Hey, Christine Towers. Yes, of Dance Enthusiasts. Yes. So we're waiting on Steven to join, which hopefully, let's see what happens. Sent him an invitation, and yeah.
Hi.
Perfect. I always get nervous, especially when someone hasn't done live before, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go.
That's how I feel. Oh boy, here we go.
Well, welcome. It's so wonderful to meet you, and thank you for agreeing to do this. I know this must be a really busy weekend for you. You know, your feature film debut in this amazing documentary, Lift, that I can't wait to see. I had to actually, the showings are sold out, and so I ended up having to buy the Tribeca at home so I can watch it on the 14th. So,
oh my God.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. So thank you for doing this, and wonderful to meet you. Can you please tell us where you're calling in from?
Well, I'm in the office of New York Theatre Ballet at the moment. Very soon this will be my office. At the moment, it's still a transition, as evidenced by the mess behind me. There's a ballet class going on for the young kids just through the door there, so you might hear some piano in the background. But
I love it.
Hopefully it won't be too obnoxious.
No, I always love when, you know, these things are very organic. And like, you know, so I should apologize too, because you might at some point hear some dogs barking outside and things going on. But that's the nature of doing these things live and raw and just DIY. And I love it. So first of all, yes, congratulations on being named the new artistic director of New York Theatre Ballet. And when did that happen?
You know, it happened May 4th, maybe, something like that. It's all running together, if I'm honest. It's sort of,
Yeah.
we're
And
getting
so
on the train. It's
when were
moving.
you aware? Because Diana, is it Diana Byers,
Yeah.
correct? She was the founder, I mean, was in the role, founder, artistic director for close to 44 years, I think, if I'm getting my math correct.
Yeah.
And so when did you know, when were the whispers that maybe you were going to be in line to succeed her?
Well, Diana, she's been in her position for a really long time, as you said, almost 44 years, and she's been talking about retiring for probably 43 of them. But I remember probably about 5 years ago, about 5 years ago, I had to retire from performing because I was injured. And at that time, she and I had our first kind of serious conversation about what it would mean for her to retire. Um, and, I was just giving my advice as a dancer who had been in the company for a really long time and knew her well. And then I moved to New Mexico and I had that great experience at NDI over there. And I think that helped me solidify a little bit my own capacity to realize, oh, actually, I think I could do this. Okay, I'm pulling the strings together. I understand, how to do these administrative parts. And I think for Diana also, she had only known me as a dancer. A choreographer, a teacher, okay, but mostly a dancer. And that's a big leap to go from dancer to director. um,
Absolutely.
I think that my time in New Mexico also showed her, oh, maybe Steven actually is the person. I think I was on a list, and it wasn't a particularly short list, is my understanding. There, New York Theatre Ballet has been around for a long time, and
Yeah.
the organization is pretty well respected, I think.
Mhm.
And there are a lot of people that I'm sure would have liked to have been in my role, and I'm just lucky to have been given this opportunity.
I love it. And I did not know about your injury. So this conversation takes a little bit of a shift because I don't know what you know about me when we were just meeting each other for the first time. But, I danced with Alvin Ailey for 6 years and had to leave. I was only 27 when I stopped dancing, which was crushing to my soul. And doing many leading roles at that point, cry amongst them. And so I was in a position where it was like I was dropped on an island and I didn't know what I was going to do. And thankfully I had some vocal talent
Mm.
in my life. And so I was able to morph into this vocalist and do some background touring for a bunch of years and started my own rock band. But I sort of just like jumped around from odd job to odd job just to pay the rent. And to your point, didn't have any, behind the scenes admin skills in the arts or a nonprofit. And so when a really dear friend of mine, Frida Bradley, who was actually just named Associate Artistic Director of the Public, which I'm so happy for
Yeah,
him,
yeah, I
when
saw
he
that.
approached me and let me know that Summer Stage was hiring for a dance curator, I had no idea what I was doing. I'm just gonna be honest. I mean, people know this. It's no secret. But, I really had to learn on the fly. And it's, obviously 15 years later, I've learned so much and I'm still learning, all the ins and outs. But first of all, are you okay to talk about your injury or is that something
Yeah,
okay,
you
cool,
know,
great.
here's the thing about being a dancer. Um, and I learned this, actually most uh, obviously when I was working in New Mexico, working with some of the young dancers there who, some of them had some injuries while I was there. And we did this game where I said, you need to fill in the blank, I am, and at the end, what do you put there? And a remarkable number of them put, I am a dancer, or I'm an artist, or some version of that, before even they put obvious things like I'm a boy, or I'm a girl, or I'm tall, or I'm short, or whatever. And I realized how much, and I'm sure you know this, how much being a dancer, I started dancing when I was 7, how much being a dancer really is an integral part of my identity. And so being injured and not being able to perform anymore was really sort of a devastating blow to not only my financial future. Okay, what do I do? How do I make money? But but to my sort of to my sense of self. I mean,
Oh,
I think the word is ego, but it's not really ego. It's like it's bigger than that.
it's self. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
bigger than that. It's deeper than that.
yeah. And so and I didn't totally confront that. I sort of, you got to deal with the stuff you got to deal with. And, I started teaching and I started doing other things and I had to get by. You got to make money. You got to do the stuff you got to do. And then this job in New Mexico sort of landed in my lap. The, Somebody knew somebody who knew somebody who gave me a call. I didn't ask for it. They just called me up and said, "Hey, would you come out here and talk about this?" And it was really the luckiest thing that had ever happened to me. I mean, a lot of lucky things have happened to me, but
Right.
that was way up there.
Yeah,
And it helped me. It helped me at a time when I needed to redefine who I was. And the
absolutely.
thing about running a school, the Highland program in Albuquerque is essentially a school to dance academy. I mean, it's a lot of things, but it's essentially a dance academy. Is just like any parent, I'm sure knows, the kids come first. I can be having whatever day I'm having, but when the kids walk in the building, you got to deal with what's happening for them. That's not dissimilar. I think I learned that most actually through the LIFT program. This film is about my upbringing. I think I learned that working with LIFT students. I think I learned that watching Diana, the way she works with the school and the way she ran LIFT and the way she runs the ballet company and all the stuff here. I've known her for a long time. That sometimes you have to put yourself aside, and that I'm talking a lot. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, this is wonderful. I'm absorbing it all because for sure I have certainly felt a lot of those things. And again, you're right. The sense of self that is lost. And I mean, I've had numerous conversations about this with other dancers and performers, especially when, you're taken out of a career that, when you leave a career in general, like whether it's retirement from, just age out or just whatever, that's already hard enough, for, athletes and dancers or like anything that's physical. But when it's sort of, snatched, in a sense, it's really rough. And so, I mean, I know there's things now dancers can, seek like mental health clinics and things like that, but it really does speak to, you need that mental health, because I also did not deal with it, and it would show itself in different ways for years until I actually went to seek help to talk about it. Like I just sort of like pushed through and got a job, started teaching fitness, and actually that was fun. But but that wasn't my career, that wasn't my passion, a thing I had done for 20 years already. And so definitely got that help. And how do you, so now in your role, and I definitely want to jump backwards when we after this, but and now in your role as artistic director, because I now obviously doing Summer State all these years, my biggest thing is no injuries on my watch, because I just know what that feels like. And it's just, if there's like a little bit of wetness on the stage or anything like that, it's like, the show's over. So how do you think you'll be approaching, because a lot of dancers will push through and work through injuries, which is so unhealthy. But
I think that a job description for an artistic director has a lot of bullet points. I mean, really a lot of bullet points. There's a lot of things, but somewhere on there, and I think pretty high up, probably in the top third of the copious bullet points, is cultivation of the dancers, of the human people that you're working with.
yes.
I think historically maybe that wasn't always something that directors were super keen on. There's this sort of cliche of, oh, well, you can't do it. Great, we'll get the understudy next. That kind of replaceable quality to the artist. And I think I think directors historically, not all of them, but a handful, sort of leaned into that, and they sort of directed through fear or through or else's, and I don't think that's the best way. I mean, I think about this story of Jerry Robbins, reprimanding his dancers at the, I don't know, rehearsal or dress rehearsal, something on stage, and he's walking backward while he's talking to them, and in front of an entire company of dancers, they watch him walk off the edge of the stage and fall into the orchestra pit, and nobody says anything. And I mean, that's a true story. Jerry Robbins fell into the orchestra while giving notes, and the lure of it, the history, the whatever, like the fake gossip around it, is that nobody said anything on purpose because they didn't like him because he was a mean guy. And I don't know if that's true,
I think Don Bellamy is watching, from also a former Alabama dancer, and
I see that.
we know Jerome Robbins, the legend, all these things. Yes, he's an icon. But we had a moment to work with him. He came to Ailey to set Opus Jazz. a bunch of years ago,
Yeah.
and there were definitely some some meltdowns
Yeah.
in the studio and between him and some of the dancers, just for his demeanor was
Yeah.
not
I mean,
great.
I never worked with him, and I can only tell the gossip that I've heard from people who have worked with him or who knew somebody who, it's third hand at this point, but it doesn't matter really the facts of what actually happened or didn't happen for me. What matters is sort of the anecdote of the philosophy behind it.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't be in a situation where you're you're not happy or you're with people that you're not interested to be around. I mean, dance is so damn
Mm.
hard, and you are it's hard enough when you're portraying a character and you're doing the technique and all of the things. As an artist, you feel like you're imparting who you are into your work. And so when you're given a correction or a note, regardless of whatever level of fair or not fair or just or right or wrong or opinion or whatever, it can be taken sometimes as a personal note.
Yes.
It's not saying please turn out more because it's ballet and you have to be turned out in the aesthetic of ballet. It's taken as you're not good enough and you are wrong, and
Right.
we have to be careful of that. I think
Yeah.
I don't like that. That's not the way I want
Yeah.
to work. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Our
so
directors really have to manage. I mean, but also too, you want to get the best result, right? I mean, you
right.
still have to be that person too, like care, but also get the best results out of
Yeah.
your dancers. And coming from the old school, like back in Philadelphia, we had some choreographers that would throw chairs.
Right. I had a chair thrown at me. Yeah. I
And I
know
don't have to name
exactly what you're talking
names,
about.
but and then you had of course, the teachers that were just they would get things out of you just by talking very softly and just so there's two schools of thought with that. I think
Yeah.
more and more as more dancers are feeling that they have agency to speak up for themselves. I hope that abusive culture is shifting. I haven't been in a rehearsal studio in forever, so I don't know, but I hope it is. And it sounds like you're on the right track with that. So I
Yeah, I
applaud.
hope so.
Yeah.
I think I was having this conversation earlier with a board member. I had a great opportunity to have lunch with a board member, and that was kind of eye opening for me. But I was talking to him about culture. I was talking to him about the culture that I want to cultivate in the institution of New York Theatre Ballet now in my new role, and how I don't see the work toward building a hospitable work environment or the situation in which people who come in as guest artists or as choreographers or whomever are eager and interested and willing to come back again later and stay involved in the NYTB family. I don't see that as anything different than the LIFT program that works with the children or than the work that the school does at New York Theatre
Mm-hmm.
Ballet. We're not, it's fantastic if the students graduate the school and they become dancers, but that's not the only possible outcome. They
Absolutely.
could go to college, they could become a doctor, they could become an arts administrator, they could do whatever they want, as long as they do
Yeah.
something, and they use the dance training that they take from the ballet school here and the rigor and the discipline and all of those things to inform how they do whatever they're going to do in their life
Absolutely.
better.
Realizing,
Yeah. And
all
all of
those.
that, I think all of what that all has in common is seeing the people that you're in front of for who they are and helping them be the best person that they can be for themselves.
Oh,
Uh,
that's wonderful.
so
Ah,
I don't think they're different things. I think they're all the same thing.
absolutely. Thank you for that. Oh, this is awesome. Thank you guys if you're just joining. I'm talking with Steven Melendez with New York Theatre Ballet, and he's the star of the upcoming Tribeca debut documentary, Lift. And this weekend with the Tribeca Film Festival, I'm so excited. I've never talked to a film festival star before, so I'm like gagging right now. But I do want to go back and, say you could tell me as much as you want to tell us about, the film, talks about your childhood. First of all, they followed you around for 10 years?
Yeah, can you imagine having a camera crew
No.
for 10 years?
No.
Oh, oh my
So
gosh.
please share with me as much as you want about, obviously the film talks about you growing up in, shelters
Yeah,
and in New York City and what that was like for you and why that was and just your family life.
sure. Well, here's the interesting thing about this film is that it takes two topics, homelessness and ballet,
Mm-hmm.
that most people have an idea about that is formed entirely for most people from their imagination.
Mm-hmm.
Because most people are not homeless, and most people don't actually know someone who's homeless. Yet, if you say that to somebody, they go, "Oh yeah, I know what that is," and they conform this concept. Most people don't take ballet. Most people have not been to a ballet. But if you said, "Oh, ballet dancer," they have an idea of what that means in their head. And the film, I hope, shows actually what the reality is, or a reality can be, for both of those concepts. Not all ballet dancers are bunheads. Not all ballet dancers are, I don't know, stick thin and lily white, and not all ballet dancers are, in the bathroom crying after every single class and going crazy. I mean, if you watch Black Swan, that movie, like not all ballet dancers are like this. Some of them are, okay, fine, but not all of them. And similar for homelessness. Not all homeless people are crackheads and hookers on the street, and not all.
Oh, you better talk about it.
That's not the reality of the world. I'll tell you my story.
Yes.
I grew up in a single parent household. My mother, myself, and my younger sister, at that time, she was probably only 1 or 2 or something, very, very young. And first of all, single parent household by design, this is what my mother wanted. She wanted to have her kids, and she did not want a man in her life. And that was just the way it was. And I thought that was the most remarkable thing. I remember her saying that out loud to me when I said, "How come my father's not around?" She goes, "You don't need your father. Don't worry about it. We're fine. This is the way it's going to be." And, oh, okay, well, that's the way it's going to be. And she was a pretty successral person. She worked at Mount Sinai Hospital. She was a medical researcher. She worked with blood, and she did back then, the late 80s and early 90s. She was doing research on AIDS, and with like spinning the blood in the big machine. She wore a lab coat. I mean, she was kind of a big deal. But she was a single mother with 2 kids, and even that way, money was tight. The same like it is in New York. The rent is too damn high, right? That's a political party in the city now. The landlord of the home that we lived in, it was a house with a backyard and a front yard. It was a house in the Bronx, a standalone, not a. It was a night anyway. So. He died. I think he had a heart attack or something. He was a nice guy, Alfred. I liked him. I remember he was babysitting for, sometimes. He died, and I don't know exactly all the details, but whoever took over the estate wanted to sell the house or wanted to get us out. Or I don't know what they wanted to do, but they kicked us out. And they basically kicked us out overnight. And so I remember with my mother, I remember going back to the house. I must have been 6, 7, whatever. Going back to the house at night, and she broke the window, and she shoved me through the window so that I could open the door, because we had to break into the house so that we could get our own stuff, my own clothes, back out of the house. I mean, we were literally kicked out overnight, Okay, so I don't know exactly all the details of whatever happened, but I do know that, like most people, you need to have your first month rent, your deposit, and your moving costs, and I mean, even if you wanted to have, that's a lot of money to suddenly have, at the drop of a hat. And, you got 2 kids. And so anyway, so we ended up in a homeless shelter, and that was that. And the particular shelter we were in was a family shelter. It's, so here's another thing a lot of people don't know. Not all homeless shelters are one big room with a bunch of cots in it, with people like taking a poop in the corner. Like that's not, some are like that, but not all of them are like that. Some of them are, halfway houses for drug rehabilitation people. And yes, maybe in those you get some sort of shady things going on, but not all homeless shelters are like that. We had a, I guess you'd call it like an apartment in this building. It was a private space. And that's we lived there for 3 years, longer than anyone could ever live there. In the Bronx, in the South Bronx, in Hunts Point. Now, for anybody who doesn't know New York, imagine all of the worst stereotypes of New York crime and condense it to the worst neighborhood in the city in the early 90s. And that's where we lived. Hunts Point was not so much now, which is quite nice now, but was.
It was a lot. I mean, do you remember that HBO special, Hookers on the Point?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, to get to the train, it's a little bit of a hike, not a huge hike, but a little bit of a hike, and that's how in New York. Like if if the MTA doesn't go there, you're probably somewhere in the city that you shouldn't be, as far as I'm concerned. Like, it's far. So, you know, in order to get to you literally had to walk under the Bruckner Highway, which is, you know, a relic of the old Robert Moses sort of dividing of the city, this neighborhood and that neighborhood. And if you're on the other side of the highway, you're in the projects. And if you're on this side of the highway, everything is fine. So, you know, and to get, man, Jesus, there were so many things that I saw as a child walking under that overpass to get to the train. It was the only way to get out of the neighborhood. Anyway, so it's a long story. Well, we have to.
No, I'm loving this, please.
So that's how we lived. We lived there for 3 years. I went to public school in Manhattan. My mother being a pretty, she's a New Yorker. She's a Puerto Rican New Yorker. So she was a single mother. She knew how to figure out to get what she needed to get. I was in a public school in Manhattan because that was apparently, in her opinion, the best public school in the city. And she had finagled for me to have, you know, in New York, you're zoned into the public school. So if you don't live near it, you're not supposed to go there. And my understanding is that she lied on the application and said that we lived at an address that didn't exist, but that was a block away from the school.
Yes, Mom.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, that's the kind of person she was. So anyway, so I went to that school, and so one day, Diana, this woman who is now the director of New York Theatre Ballet, back then, of course, she was the director. She had this lift program. She, I guess a little bit of the history that I understand, in 1989, the Department of Cultural Affairs, under the then commissioner, put out an offer for a grant that arts organizations could apply for, that asked arts organizations to partner with a particular shelter, or not all of them were shelters, some of them were residencies or halfway houses. I don't know all of the details, but New York Theatre Ballet, Diana applied with New York Theatre Ballet, and New York Theatre was paired with Seneca House, which was the shelter that my family was living in. And that program was supposed to be, I think, just 1 or 2 years, and it was a grant that the company would get. And all they had to do was, you know, 1 or 2 interactive elements with the shelter population, and then the arts organization would get the money, and they would check it off, and it would be done. My understanding is Diana read the grant and thought, this is a great idea, but it's not being done right. We should be doing much more than this. And so she turned it into like a week-long workshop, and she had the adult dancers from the ballet company were some of the helpers, you know, with the kids that were coming in, and they would teach classes. And then she additionally offered scholarships for the students that she thought had potential and that seemed motivated to join the ballet school that she was running. And then, you know, the DCA grant dried up, as money does when it comes from the city. It goes by, you know, basically by administration. When the administration changes, you have to sort of reinvent the wheel. But she said, this is a great idea. We're going to keep doing it. And so she kept raising money for it every year, and she kept doing it. And so now, beautiful. Yeah, it's been over 30 years Lift has been going.
Oh my goodness.
And so I met her. So she walked into the shelter and she was like, hi, I'm Diana. I have a ballet company. If you want to dance ballet, come with me. And
just like that.
Yeah, that's where I remember it. And
so what, at that point, you're how old?
7.
7.
Yeah, I just turned 7, just turned 7.
Did you have any idea what dance was? Did you see dance on videos? Because I guess for 7, it was like mid-90s for you to be 7.
Yeah, no way. I was when I was younger, at least, the quintessential Puerto Rican South Bronx boy. I mean, I liked the Yankees, and I was like, just no ballet, dance. That was not even close to anything in my life. Yeah, and this was.
But could you dance, like even social dance, like at parties, like
no?
Little you?
Let me tell you about little me. You want to know about? I'm going to tell you about little me. Oh my God, I probably have pictures. I don't have them now, but I'll send you a picture later.
Yeah.
I would wear a 3-piece suit every day. Every day.
You were suave.
Every day I wore a 3-piece suit. I would, like, in class, you know, there's recess or there's gym class or whatever. I would have to change out of my loafers and put on my tennis shoes, and then I'd hang my jacket on the hook by the, yeah. So here's me running around. My favorite 3-piece suit was gold with black pinstripes. There are pictures of me with my mother and my sister. There are pictures of us at the beach, like on a family vacation when I was a little kid. and I'm in a suit laying on the towel. My mother's in her bathing suit, and my sister's a baby, you know, and I'm in a suit with a little fedora and a tie.
Oh my God!
And a tie.
You were meant for greatness. You were
You
were already setting yourself up for like fabulous greatness.
Yeah, I was.
You already knew.
Very strange time.
I love it. And so Diana comes in. She's like, I got this ballet thing. She like, and what do you think? Like, you just say, okay, sure, I'll try it.
I didn't have a choice. Are you kidding? No, my mother said you're going to do this, and that's the way it is. So, but here's the thing, you know, the reality. So, in that shelter, at least, and probably most of the ones that exist in the city, you know, if you're a child, you can't be in the building alone. You have to be there with an adult. You know, it's not daycare. It's a place to sleep. And my mother worked, you know, she worked 2 or 3 jobs by then. She had to pick up more work. And so she wouldn't get home until, you know, probably 8 or 9 at night. And school finishes at 3. So there's nothing for me to do. I mean, I'm not going to sit out on the street corner. At least my mother wouldn't let me sit on the street corner. Other kids from, you know, where I come from, other kids definitely did do that. That's exactly what they did. So I had ballet instead of standing out on the street corner. And it worked out. You know, I'd go in the morning, I'd go to school, and then I'd go to ballet class. And then by the time ballet class was finished, I'd get home, and I'd get home just in time for my mother to be home. And that was that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did you like it? Did you like it immediately?
Diana and I have different memories of this. I remember hating it. I remember thinking it was the worst thing on the planet, and why would anybody do this? But she says that on the last day, was holding on to her leg and wouldn't leave. And she says that she only gave me the scholarship to trick me into leaving. She said, "Oh no, you can come back next week. You'll get a scholarship. Now go, please." Yeah. So
did your sister go with you?
She did. She came for as long as we were in the shelter. She danced as well. She didn't have the same kind of passion or interest in it, and she was much younger. She's 6 years younger than I am. And so, you know, therefore, between her and I, our relationship is kind of strange. We're not really close because we're very different in age. So it's we were never. I would say we were never friends, really. I mean, not in the way brothers and sisters can be. It was always sort of this dynamic of me being older and sort of mature and having older friends and all that kind of thing. So,
and so did you have? I mean, I feel like, so I actually started dancing really late at least for a girl. I mean, I started really seriously taking class at 12 or 13, but I had natural, thank goodness, flexibility, and jump and all these physical things. I mean, my feet were flat as hell, but it didn't matter. But, you know, I had to catch up a little bit in terms of the technique. Did you have like sort of any natural ability?
Not me. I don't know. It's hard to. I don't think so. I mean, I think Diana would say yes. I think, you know, well, I mean, I became a dancer, so I must have had something, but
something worked.
Something worked. But, you know, for me, I just did a lot of work. I liked the part of ballet that allowed me to prove that I had earned something. That was really important to me. You know, the thing about ballet, and maybe I don't know if I knew this when I was younger, but certainly looking back, I can recognize it. The thing about ballet is that everyone walks into the room on Monday, and you all learn how to do whatever the step, pirouette, a soutenu, a chaîné, a jeté, or whatever the step is. And on Tuesday, when you come back, one of you has practiced it and is not falling over, and the other one hasn't, right? And that's just the way it goes. And now you did a good job because you practiced, and the other person didn't practice, and they're falling over. And that has nothing to do with whether you slept in a bed or on the floor that night. It has nothing to do with whether you had a full dinner or a snack or white rice and ketchup or, you know, whatever. It has nothing to do with whether your parents are the mayor or the king of Sweden, or if you or if you don't even know who your father is. Like, it has nothing to do with it. It's whether you practiced or not. And I think I liked that element of it. Which is another way of saying I'm a very competitive person.
Listen, me too. I mean, so I was such a tomboy, and just, you know, out in the streets roaming around as a kid. I mean, single mother as well. My mother divorced my dad when I was 2. My sister was 4, and she was just done. And you know, the area where we lived in Philadelphia, Southwest Philadelphia at that point, was sort of middle class. So we just, you know, we just roamed the streets, but I tended to like hang out with the little boys and just like roughhouse and ride bikes. And so, you know, dance for me, you know, I learned like competitiveness, I think, because of that. And also too, my sister was older and I was trying to do the same things that she was doing. And I learned how to talk really early because I wanted to talk to her. Like, why are you talking? I can't talk. So I learned to talk at like, I wasn't even 2 yet. And so my other question was, were there other boys in your class typically?
No. When I was coming up, I was the only boy in my ballet class for a long time, and that was another motivator for me, if I'm honest. I mean,
Okay.
that's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
But in a way, there were men in the company. In fact,
Mm.
at that time, New York Theatre Ballet had a principal male dancer. His name was Leonard. I remember him very well. And he was a tall black man, and he was British, and he had an accent, and he sounded like he was the smartest person on the planet, and he danced beautifully and gracefully, and he was really dark skinned, like chocolate. And it was just, every day I'd come in and I'd look at him and go, Jesus Christ, that's great. I want to do that. And then he played chess, and he learned that I explained to him that I knew how to play chess. I nearly wasn't as good as him, obviously, but I was a very young child. But then he and I would start playing chess. We'd have in the dressing room, there's a chessboard, and he'd have rehearsals in the morning, then he'd be gone, and in the afternoon I'd come in for classes in the evening. And so he would make a move, and then I'd come in, and over the course of class and whatever I was doing, I'd figure out what my move was going to be, and I'd make a move, and then he'd come back in the morning and he'd make his move.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, and so in a way, and I credit Diana. I'm sure she didn't do it on purpose, or maybe she did. I don't know, but maybe she talked to him and said, "Hey, I need you to pay attention to this young man. He needs a man in his life." I don't know, but Leonard kind of served like a role model for me. And again, I realize that now as an adult person, I realize I didn't know that then.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of men that I was introduced through dance, through New York Theatre Ballet, through Diana, through either dancers or donors or audience members who took an interest in who's that young kid on the stage, who Diana introduced me to, who just opened my eyes to a very different way that the world could be, maybe not on purpose, or maybe on purpose. I don't know how curated that whole thing was. But now, for a short time, I was the director of the Lift program before while I was still dancing, and and of course, while I was in New Mexico, I was working with students quite a bit, and I felt very aware of the power that something I came to learn actually has an acronym: a meaningful activity with a meaningful adult. The power that could have. The acronym is MAMA. Right, every child needs a mama. It makes sense. And so I realized that, and I now, in my capacity now for what I do now and what I was just doing in New Mexico, I try to either be that meaningful adult or find that meaningful adult, and we let the activity be ballet. Ballet is great. We don't have to change that. And I think that's the beginnings of a good recipe for raising successful young people.
Absolutely. Oh my God, that's so beautiful. And I do, obviously, you're taking class, you're going back to the shelter. Were you teased? Were the other shelter kids, were they aware of what you were up to? And, was there any kind of,
Yeah.
Kids.
At the shelter, I was out of there first thing in the morning to get to school, and I came back so late. I can't tell you that I really knew anybody there, and maybe to my benefit that I didn't really know anybody there, or I'd imagine, and again probably by design. I'm sure my mother knew what she was doing when she said, no, we're going to stay out until the very last possible minute. We'll go in, we'll go to sleep, and then we'll leave again.
That's so interesting. Again, like single parent, my mom, my sister, and myself, we were in the public school system in Philadelphia. And similarly, she graduated our elementary school and then went to a public middle school. And it was in a really rough area of Philadelphia. It was called, based on our zip code. And at that point, my mother just decided I can't have, so I was going to be following shortly thereafter. And, my sister had started cutting school. She had never done that. And all these behavioral things started. And so she's like, what can I do? And luckily, my grandmother found an ad in the Philadelphia newspaper that this school, this performing arts school in Philadelphia, was taking new applicants. It was a very small school that used to be associated to the old University of the Arts. And it just, I mean, we knew about the arts. My mother had wanted to be a dancer, but there wasn't money, you know, in her family to do that. But she exposed us to as much as she could, either through television. You know, I tell the story about how we took a church trip up to New York to see The Wiz on Broadway. And that was my first time seeing the live performance of especially Black people. And like, oh. And so now I started watching all these old movies where there was dance and singing, you know, Lena Horne and all these, you know, and being sent to this high school just like blew my mind wide open. And I knew like, this is what I want to be doing. And then subsequently meeting the young woman that introduced me to Philadelphia in Philadelphia, and then on and on and on. So, you know, that introduction, that, you know, and then my dad never saw me dance. We had a very estranged relationship. But even being in the company of men in Philadelphia, gay or straight, just having those men that I could look up to as strong, intelligent, caring men that guided my dance career, and on and on. And so I totally understand that. I totally feel that. And I hope, you know, the work that I do, even with Summer Stage, you know, the workshops that we're able to get back to this year with the young people is so important, and family programming and programs like LIFT that, so now in your role as artistic director, do you also now take that on? Do you oversee some of that now still?
Yeah, so here's the interesting thing about New York Theatre Ballet. It's a giant footprint in a very small organization. And so I think the best way to describe New York Theatre Ballet is to think of it as the umbrella name for an organization that has three principal tasks. The first is the performing company, the professional dancers that perform, and they do all kinds of great rep, Balanchine and Tudor and all that kind of stuff. Okay, the next part is the school. The school is quite large, you know, from, I don't know, 4 years old to 18, only ballet, but you know, it's a big school. And then the third part is this outreach element, the LIFT element. Now, LIFT is easiest to see in the work that the school does to cultivate young people from the homeless and home insecure population into the ballet school, and it integrates them into the school and continues. But I think that the company performs sort of the ethos of LIFT equally when it takes, when it goes on tour to these arts deserts. You know, when we go to communities that larger arts institutions sort of skip over, who's an example? I won't say an example. Insert major dance company here, you know, they'll go to Raleigh and then they'll continue down and they'll skip over a bunch of stuff and they'll end up in Orlando, right? There's a lot between Raleigh and Orlando. Maybe they'll stop in Atlanta, maybe. You know, New York Theatre Ballet will go to Asheville and Tarboro and Wilson and these little tiny towns, you know, that are, for the communities that live there, Raleigh is just on the edge of too far. You know, it's not impossible if you have a car and if you can afford the gas and if maybe you want to do an overnight out of it, and if you don't have 4 other jobs that you have to take off, then you could drive 2 hours, 3 hours to Raleigh and see a dance show. Right. Or New York Theatre Ballet will come to you because you deserve it and you have to have that exposure. So I think that that's sort of the ethos of LIFT, just the same as bringing the children up through the pipeline in the school. So my job as artistic director is over the whole organization. Diana, you know, she was the founder and artistic director for the organization for a long time. She's retiring from this role, but she's going to stay on as the director of the school.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, so, and which is important because she has all the experience and legacy and history of teaching the Cicchetti method, which is what the school is based in, and she has a lot of experience dealing with parents and teaching dance, and she knows how to build curriculum and syllabus and all that kind of stuff really well. So she's not going away. She's just moving to a
No, that's awesome. And I love that. I mean, when I danced, even with Phil Danko and also Alvin Ailey, even though it was crack early in the morning, I used to really enjoy those lectums that we used to do for, like you said, like populations that maybe couldn't afford to come see us at night, especially of a family, or tickets to range from like 80 to whatever it is.
Right.
And you know, school in an auditorium full of kids, or we would bus them into the theater where we were performing. full makeup at
Right.
9 in the morning,
Yeah.
tight buns, all of the above, but also the program that Mr. Ailey started, Ailey Camp, and
Uh-huh.
there's so many now around the country, and it's free dance classes and workshops, and just like you said, like creating beautiful humans.
Yeah.
Through dance. And I love that. I love that. Oh my God, I can't believe it's almost 6 o'clock. But I really want to get to, and thank you again for doing this.
Sure.
I
I
can't
got
wait to
all
meet you
night.
in
Don't worry
person.
about it.
I hope it's soon. But tell me how the documentary and the filming, how it came to be with you.
Oh, well, okay. So I went up through the school. I graduated up through the school, and I took work and I did all this stuff, and I came back around to being back in New York with New York Theatre Ballet.
Mm-hmm.
After doing a lot of stuff all over well, you read that
Mm-hmm.
bio. I've never heard somebody read my bio before. It was really a long time. I'm sorry you had to read that.
No, it's great.
And New York Theatre Ballet has, for a very long time, been being photographed by a guy named Richard Termini. He's a great photographer. He was a photographer for the Times for a little while, and every time they'd send a critic over, he'd do the photographs for it. And so he knew the company well, and he had seen me for many, many years growing up, and he had taken photos of me on the stage because I've been with New York Theatre Ballet for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And he knew my story. He knew Lift, he knew Diana well, just as being a photographer around the sort of circle of New York Theatre Ballet. And he, at a dog park in, I don't know, somewhere in New York or Brooklyn or something, knew a guy or met a guy who, David Petersen, who was the filmmaker, and
Mm-hmm.
their dogs were running in the thing, and he found out that David was a documentary filmmaker, and he said, you want to make a documentary, you should go to this New York Theatre Ballet place. They've got this program, and they've got this kid, Steven, and you've got a. And David thought, okay, yeah, I'll check it out. And he came in one day and talked to Diana, said, I'm a documentary filmmaker. I heard this cool story. Let's see what we can do here. And in the beginning, it was just David, him and a camera, and he held the microphone, and he did all of it by himself. It was like volunteer
Wow.
labor, And if I'm honest, I think it was being filmed for so long, partly because he was doing it all himself. But I think what he realized quickly, and what I know, and I imagine you know, and other people in the arts education space know, the value of what we offer to children with programs like Lift is very difficult to see in one demonstration. Right? You don't get all the homeless kids in one room and then get all the donors in that room and say, okay, guys, now do a plie, and then turn to the donors and say, look, they can do a plie, give us money. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
What you have to see is the donors have to meet these kids in the beginning, and then they have to come back 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 years later and say, oh my God, that's the kid that I saw. I remember when that kid, blah, blah, blah. And then you have to come back.
They want results. They want to see the results, right?
Yeah. And when you're talking about building good when you talk about building good people, you have to wait until the people are built. You have to, you can't see that effect straight away. So I think the side benefit of there being no money to make this film for a long time, and David doing it all himself, is that actually he ended up capturing the best testimonial that has ever been given for the value of these kinds of arts outreach programs. And what he's done, so he started filming me. I was already, I guess, 24 or 23, 24, something like that, when he started filming me. But at that time, Lift has been going on. There is a pipeline of Lift students. At that time, there were a lot of kids that aren't in the film because otherwise the film would be too long. But there was a young girl who was just turning, I don't know, I guess she was just turning 6. And there was Victor Abreu, who at that time I think was just turning, I don't know, 10 or 12. And then there was another girl at that time who was just turning 16. And then he had me. So he was able to capture all of these storylines that were happening simultaneously.
Wow.
And the result after 10 years of filming is there are a lot of key moments in the film that are not maybe exactly the same, but essentially the same key moment that everyone that has gone through Lift has experienced. And so you see each moment through the slightly different lens of the particular child that is experiencing that at that moment live. But you could imagine how that might extend to someone else. So an example, David he captured the moment when Victor was accepted to School of American Ballet. And that's great. So,
it's a great moment.
It's a great moment. And it also happens to be something that I went through. And so there's the parallel there, right? He captures the moment when Victor is offered his first contract with New York City Ballet. The same thing that I went through. It wasn't with New York City Ballet, but it was the same thing I went through. But you could extrapolate a little bit and say, okay, maybe it's not a contract with a dance company. Maybe it's an acceptance letter to a college, or maybe it's a landing the job that you were looking for. But every lift student has had that moment where they go, I achieved this. Look at the letter that just came in. Equally, on the other side, though, he captures some moments that every lift student has gone through, where Diana or me, in that case, is reprimanding the child for having made a mistake, having done something wrong, and having a learning lesson here. I think the one that I know is in the film, for Victor, Diana scolds him because he got his first opportunity to be a freelance dancer, and he was supposed to show up at some rehearsal for some gig, that he was doing, and he showed up late, and they fired him. And I don't know, he was like 15 or something, or 16. And instead of just being, what's the best way to say this? Like, instead of it just being a moment of failure that so many people confront, and certainly people from our background confront often, it's a moment when Diana can use it as a teaching moment. And she says, look, Victor, you made a big mistake here, and you have to own that. And this is the result. And there isn't the rainbow at the end of this. I'm not getting you your job back. I'm not going to call them up and say, give them another chance. That's it. You lost it. So pull yourself together and do it better next time. And that kind of learning moment, that sort of shock in the cold water, I think is really valuable. And it's the same kind of learning moment that any child that's being reared needs to have. And the children that come from the backgrounds like I come from seem to need them more frequently and maybe a little bit stronger. If that makes sense. I don't know if that's the right way to say it.
But it's just learning responsibility. It's learning, commitment. It's all those things. Professionalism. I was talking about that last week with my last week's guest. Was last week? Doriana Sanchez of So You Think You Can Dance. Diva that she is. And we were talking about just those basic things that not only help you in dance, but just in life, like showing up, returning phone calls, just being on time, showing up if your appointment's at 8 and you get there at 8, that's not on time. You're late. You're late. And so, oh wow. Oh my goodness. So I have 2 minutes remaining, which is crazy.
What's
I didn't think it's
Are they going to get kicked out?
Oh, they're going back to that.
I'm having such a good time.
Yeah. Okay. Instagram. So quickly, you're in the movie. It's Lift. The link to the film and the story about the film is in my bio. The website too. The ballet company is in my bio. I have loved this. I can't believe I'm going to cut off with the clock. But in any case, Steven, good luck to you. Thank you. I can't wait to see the movie. I can't wait to see you in person. And please come to Summer Stage and let me know where you're coming, and you'll be my VIP anytime.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. This has been really great.
All right. Thank you so much. This is wonderful. And see you guys next week. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you, Steve. And thank you, Kelly, for setting this up. Okay, bye.